Okay, so in a way, I wanted to click the reset button, and I also wanted to answer one of the oldest and, sadly, currently least innovative questions. Is the Rolex Submariner the best timepiece ever? I'm going to put this to all of you. It seems so simple to ask the question, don't you think? How has this watch's larger influence altered and impacted the world? I'm talking about how the watch is viewed worldwide due to its influence, and how has it changed the watch-related world. These are the timepieces that come to mind first, much to how we think of the Speedmaster and the Seamaster as great options to pick from. The Submariner, undoubtedly one of the most famous and significant watches of our time, is another universal constant like gravity. The impact this watch has had over the past 70 years cannot be overstated, regardless of whether we love or despise it. It's absurd to consider that each of you who are viewing this video has already interacted with the Submariner at some point in your life, whether you've handled them, observed them via a glass case, entertained the idea of conceivably possessing one, or discovered a watch that unmistakably drew influence from the Submariner in some way. Because the Sub was the first to do this, the Snowflake, the Pelagast FXD Snowflake, is the modern iteration of the Snowflake Submariner. Reference 5517 and 5514, those first MOD male subs. This FXD draws inspiration from these historical traits and combines them with contemporary elements to create itself. The answer to the issue of why the Sub is so great is that it served as the model for the foundation upon which a huge number of viewers and companies have established themselves throughout the years. Is it because it was so expertly planned and performed that the equation was presented from the start as unequaled from a build-to-function reliability point of view? Or perhaps it's because it's been so extensively disseminated that it fundamentally inspired the creation of some Rolex's most lucrative properties, similar to GMT, the second explorer. In this video, I'll try to cover all of these subjects. But before that, hey there and welcome back to this channel. This is Megan and today, let's talk about Rolex. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos like this. I think the success and the magnificence of a project like this don't come from one big milestone, but rather from many, and that, in a nutshell, is the key to this watch's success and why it has become so well known now that we collectively are knowledgeable about them. Not just the watch's history, but the thousands of reference numbers. Even the common street person with no interest in watches is aware of the watch's name and the company to which it belongs. So let's briefly review some of the most significant cases. There's a reason for this, so don't worry, I'll keep it simple. Realistically, there are only a few examples that you need to be aware of, which is a good thing. Let's start with the fact that the Submariner was originally just a chronograph, and this served as the base from which the Submariner and the GMT would eventually branch forth. The original chronograph, the earliest instance of the Milgauss, is a fantastic underrated item, and it's been claimed that the first Submariner, which debuted around 1953, was among the world's first because it arrived simultaneously with divers like the 50 Fathoms and the Zodiac Seawolf. Then we switch to the huge crown, 6536, 6538. There were other further examples, such as the 6204, but we won't get too technical now. However, these were the pioneering pieces that laid the groundwork. As we all know, 6538 was Sean Connery's watch, making it the first Bond watch. Reference 5212 is next. The first instance where we would encounter trained crown guards in this circumstance. The majority of these pieces had gloss dials, and many of them included gilt lettering. The simplest method to tell if a piece is a 5512, at least in latter instances, is to look at the dials, which had 4 lines of text, because the movements were chronometer certified. Then shortly after that, the 5513 would appear. These initially had gloss dials, but later switched to matte dials. Despite having exact movements, these models were infamous for having 2 lines of text. Then 1680 came along. the first Submariner to be offered a date complication. These watches became known as red Submariners, since the early versions would have one line of red lettering on a matte display. Then in the early 1990s and the 2000s, the 14060, the pinnacle of the modern vintage Submariner, appeared. These two-line texts were simple and well-balanced. They were a legend. Then right after that, we got to 16610. We then moved on to the super instances, such as the 114060 and 116610. And the rest is history. Let's face it, most of us in this room are familiar with these models' references like the backs of our hands. They are simple to adhere to. I repeated these models because it is through repetition that we have grown accustomed to distinguishing one model from the next. And design repetition has demonstrated this watch's durability throughout the ages. It has become an icon because it was never willing to change, but to stick to its principles and never follow the fads and trends of the day, with the possible exception of adopting two-tone at that time. However, this watch is unique from others due to its slow evolution rather than the revolution it underwent. Now let's examine the Rolex and Submariner of today's modern day. Very overly hyped. There is no denying that advertisements cannot sell these. Yes, there are more expensive, better dive watches available. However, the Submariner has come to a position and a point where they are now impassable. The wider claim, fame, and pop cultural status throughout this are all well. However, I think the Submariner's reputation wasn't made up. Although the romance of owning a watch like this is alluring, the strong reputation that this watch has was earned. The advertising may have helped them get off the ground. Do you want more? Make sure to finish this video. And if you want to support this channel more, you might want to try our Super Thanks, wherein your comments will be highlighted, or join our membership program. With all the criticisms we have about the Rolex brand, how they now conduct business, the consumers who purchase these timepieces are less interested in the watches themselves and more interested in the brand and the status of possessing them. The first 50 years of the Submariner's existence solidified it as a tool with tens of thousands of testimonials from owners who have used them for everything throughout their lives, wearing them everywhere. When you gauge your product's success based on customer feedback, you've already won half the battle if the watch owners have never been dissatisfied. Not luxury but dependability, accuracy, and robustness began to define Rolex tool watchers as their ethos and guiding philosophy. Even now, when we look at current machines, we can see that they are still made to endure the outer elements despite having far flashier, larger, more reflecting, and luxurious features than ever before. They use some of the most durable materials and have the greatest machining in the industry for larger-scale bracelet production. Although they may be associated with the word luxury, they have never abandoned the philosophy and purpose surrounding these timepieces and defining their manufacturing process. Considering what Tudor accomplishes today, we may say that they have continued where Rolex left off in the 1990s and the early 2000s. They are producing modern-day true-to-the-core tool watches. But when we notice that the most well-liked designs are fundamentally based on the Submariner, the Submariner provided them with a template. Then we add in how many popular watch designs today have been affected by the Submariner, and I would say endless. There are triangles, dashes, and dots all over the place. The format is commonplace with the typical dive watch nowadays in one form or another. The issue to ask then is this watch excellent? Or are we just buying it because everyone else is doing it? It's a wise inquiry to make. If given a chance to pick one watch for the rest of their lives, some of the most renowned watchmakers of our day would choose a Rolex. And the term Submariner is bandied about as casually as a daily necessity in our watch hobby. Even now, as a watch designer, I think the Submariner is a brilliant piece of work. It's still a piece that was so much ahead of its time, even if we see them repeated, reproduced, and accentuated today, and we see so much of it that it may be difficult and exhausting to talk about and look at. The fundamental method of holding the weave on the dial by selecting shapes rather than digits. It uses a more basic notion of telling time. It completely rewrites the rules of legibility, Secondly, the usage of proper sizes has allowed so many individuals to own this watch. Then it describes how it changed from being a dressy diver into something with a more professional focus. And ultimately, it draws attention to the contemporary environment we are in right now, when it seems that a professional stainless steel sports watch is a must. Like it or not, the Submariner was one of the first pieces that solidified the idea of an all-stainless steel hermetically sealed diving watch, intended to go anywhere and to do anything. It's remarkable to see how one idea can radiate out and, in this case, affect an entire industry. In the end, the Rolex Submariner was the outcome of a perfect storm, one of the first dive watches on the market, and one of the most tasteful, practical, and attractive designs for a diver. It has decades of contented consumers, a significant popular culture influence, and never sacrifices when it comes to reliable watchmaking, utilizing the best materials and production techniques. Years of unwavering design modification with just minor adjustments. And even if interest in these watches fades, the stainless steel sports watch will still be significant, even if it only registers as a brief blip on the popularity radar. With all of that said, I think this watch has earned its status as one of, if not the best, watch of all time. It will never go out of style, be out of place, and always have a clear history. And that's it! Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Likewise, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos like this. This is Megan, and thank you for watching. Before you leave, do you want to know more about Rolex? Well, click and watch this video here. You'll love it.